Hey, what's up, everyone? Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Coinaholics, we are about ready to embark on a huge journey. All right, so what are we going to talk about in this video? It's real simple. Go ahead and read that screen real quick. Complete all of these steps and you will own a rare Jefferson Nickel that is worth upwards of, guess what? Those are some pretty big number right there. $40,000 in all yellow. Now, I'm going to tell you here momentarily where I got that figure from. And no, it's no joke. There is a nickel that is so rare that it's worth a lot of money. As of right now, only one exists, which is pretty crazy. Here's the caveat, though. There were 136,131,380 of this particular date of nickel that was produced, but yet only one of this type exists for the date. All right, so what exactly are we talking about here? It's real simple. It's the 1965 Jefferson Nickel. First of all, you're probably thinking to yourself, what? I mean, and a lot of you are probably going to end up saying to yourselves, I have a few of these in my piggy bank right now, or I've come across so many of these going through bankrolls, it's not even funny. All right, okay, yeah, you and me both. We have come across a lot of the 1965. So what's so significant about this particular date? Well, first of all, it marks the start of a new era with the U.S. Mint. And silver has gone bye-bye, all right, in terms of its 90% business strike usage. 65 became the first year all across the board, with the exception of the Candy half dollars, they actually went to a 40% silver clad. All the other denominations went to a copper nickel, or in this case with the nickel, it just stayed its regular composition, which is 75% nickel, 25% copper, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had your Lincoln cents, which were all the bronze planchets. So yeah, all you have to do is find this coin right here. I'm not going to say it's easier said than done because, you know, you and the person that is also watching this video and then the other person and then myself have all came to the realization that we found a lot of these. All right, but it's not so cut and dry as you would think. Okay, so first of all, we have to look at some data because yes, everything revolves around grade. The coin that you see on screen here actually is not one of those rare coins. However, this is a rare coin for another reason. This is a coin here that sold for actually a pretty decent amount of money. Was it $40,000? No. But the result of this particular sale will shock you. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this particular screen right here. So this is PCGS.com. This is in the price guide section. So you can see it pop up right here. So what I did was I clicked in price guide and I went into Jefferson Nickels. Okay, and then we went all the way to page 2. And then we have 1965. And then you see it on here twice. And I'll get to that in a second. So if you look all the way to the right on this first 1965 line, okay, you'll find that it's mint state, which means it's a coin that was made and crafted for circulation. They call this also a business strike coin. And then you'll see its respective values, okay, and these are price guide values, not indicative of how much they would normally sell in the real world, okay? Usually it's going to be some other figure other than $2,000. For a mint state 67, okay, and you see the numerical grade across the top. All right, so the secondary line still says 1965. However, if you pan over to the right, it says FS instead of MS. So what does that mean? Well, that simply stands for full steps. It's a strike designation. And there's only $2 values in this particular row. You have $10,000 for a mint state 65 with full steps. And then you have $40,000 for a mint state 66 also with full steps. So that's what you need to find. All you have to find is the 1965 Jefferson Nickel that will grade out high as a mint state 66 with full steps. Right? Seems pretty simple considering the fact that there's 136 freaking million of these things made. So what's the catch? Well, first of all, you need to understand a few things. Okay, so if we went and clicked in the first 1965 right here, usually when you go into the actual data of the coin, it'll give you mintage, it'll give you the highest sale recorded for a non-full steps coin. It'll 75% copper, 25% nickel. I made a mistake there. But it gives you all of the rundown of the weight of the coin to the size, things of that nature. And then you also have even more deeper and wider data for auction sales records in their respective grades. We have some pretty big numbers over here for a non-full steps coin. And take a look, $2,000. However, there were a few coins that had sold for much more than that. All right, so again, you don't really take this with a grain of salt. But if you scroll all the way down, there's going to be a little bit of important information of that specific coin. So one of the senior PCGS members, Ron Guth, had mentioned for this particular coin, the 65 Jefferson Nickel, is a very common coin in all grades, including gem mint state. However, any 1965 nickel with full steps is an extreme rarity. The finest non-full step 1965 nickel certified by PCGS is a single mint state 67. So even as a non-full step nickel, trying to obtain a mint state 67 is actually a lot more work than it sounds, because the coin will be essentially freshly minted with very few distracting problem areas. All right, so that is on the mint state type of this coin. Okay, let's go ahead and click into the full steps type, and then see you also have these clickable links there in blue. So let's go ahead and click in full steps, or we could have just clicked right here, the full steps mint state, just kind of toggle back and forth. That's the one lone example of this coin as a full stepper, which is a mint state 66 full steps. So there is at least one example that had graded out with full steps for 1965, which means they do exist. They're not quite the unicorn type of level of coin as you would think, or else this conversation would end. But get this, there was also a 65. Right here, that graded 165 and then 1 in 66. So you have two very extremely valuable coins that exist somewhere in the world today. You go down and you read this from Ron again. The 65 nickel is an extreme rarity with full steps. PCGS has certified only one example, a single 65 full steps. Well, this is probably an old data point because there's now a 66 full stepper. Right there, population. So the population means that's how many there are of that respective grade. All right, so we've come to the determination. We need to find a 65 Jefferson Nickel, which there are 136 million of them. And I will get to exactly what you need to find and what type of roles or whatever you would need to look through in order to find this. It's pretty crazy. I'm floored right now of how rare this is in full steps. Okay. One thing to keep in mind with 1965, these were not in any sort of mint set. Okay. There was a special mint set that was made, but that was a kind of like combination of a business strike and a proof coin. Okay. So that they are special strikes. They don't count in this. You need to find a mint state circulation strike coin, which a lot of them were placed right directly into circulation from the U.S. Mint. And since there's no mint sets to go through to pick and cherry pick some of the finest grade examples, we're talking about a coin that's, 55 years old or something like that. It's an old coin now. It didn't used to be. But finding a source where you could go through just a ton of mint state coins to find some of those full steps is going to be important. Now, here's the counter argument that I get a lot from a lot of folks every time I talk about a full steps nickel that you could find and subsequently grade and then make all this oodles of money. Okay, and I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for all the other YouTubers that like to talk about this sort of thing. All right, the counter argument is that, I would find something like this, but I don't know and can't determine how it's a full step. So first of all, you need a magnifier to get in close to that, right? We all know that. This is not something that you could see with the naked eye and then make that realistic call on whether or not it's a true full steps nickel. You just can't do that. All right, so make sure you have a good enough type of glass that you could get in close to this. See how close I could get with this zoom tool? You need to be able to see that. All right, so what exactly constitutes full steps? Okay, because again, like I've said, I've had a lot of people that have contradicted the information I've given, and people just don't know exactly what full steps is. Well, thanks to a friend of the channel, Adam Chambers, he sent me this link from PCGS. It's a Tips from the Grading Room Part 3. It's in actually News Home and Articles. All right, so there's a bunch of other tips, and these are all from established graders. This is Mike Sherman, and this was made August 2nd, 2010. It's actually a really nice little article or puff piece regarding full steps, okay? And what it says here, and you could read it at your own leisure as well, okay? This is part of an installment of Tips from the Grading Room. They talk about things like strike designation all day long, like full steps, nickels, full band, mercury dimes. Last issue, we took a look at what constituted a full band's mercury dime, designated FB by PCGS. This time, we'll examine full steps designation for Jefferson Nickels. Okay, so you could go through this and read it. It has to grade out at least a mint state 60, which means coins direct from circulation that have circulated quite a bit probably will not pass with full steps. So your XF45s, AU55s, things like that. So the coin has to be mint state 60, and there has to be at least 5, count them, 5 separated steps at the base of Monticello. Any major disturbance or interruption of these steps or lines, whether caused by contact, planchet problems, or another source, will result in the coins not being designated FS. Only the slightest weakness on any step line is allowed for this designation. Some issues are almost never seen with full steps and may command a significant premium, i.e. the 65 Jefferson Nickel. And then it goes on to talk about the reverse in 1940, the reverse in 1938. So Mike had also supplied a few images to detail exactly what constitutes full steps on PCGS's side. And then all of the PCGS graders adhere to this particular standard. So pay attention. So here's 100% full steps. Okay, hopefully this is big enough on screen that you guys can actually see that. I mean, these steps are crisp. They're unobstructed by any sort of nicks or planchet marks. Here's one with minimum full step detail on the bottom step. However, this particular coin is also designated as a full stepper. You go here, this coin looks pretty good, but there are a few little nicks that actually cross into the steps, and they're deep enough to affect the individual channels that go left to right, separating each step. And this one is just short of an FS qualification. And by the way, I would love for you guys to save this article or save the video, bookmark it if you can, because if you like to look through nickels and you're really interested in full steps and the rarity that comes with it, this is a great guide to follow. And then here's also the last nickel detail, weakly struck, almost no steps. Okay, this one is not going to be an FS. with the graders. All right. So we've determined a specific date of nickel. We've talked about where you could find it. Okay, obviously you can't find it in a sort of mint set or proof set because neither existed for that date. We talked about what constitutes step detail for an FS designation. All right, the coin that you saw at the beginning of the video was actually sold on Heritage Auctions. Now, I just simply typed in 1965 in the nickel section for the archives. And the one that you saw was actually a Mint State 67 non-full steps that sold for $2,585 September 7th, 2016. That was also on PCGS Price Guide. So this was the coin that we looked at. All right. In the holder, graded, and everything like that. I mean, this is still quite a bit of money, but you can see that there is quite a bit of loss of detail in the steps. You might have like one full step on this one. But it's so tough. Now let's talk about where you find these. Because obviously this is not a realistic coin to find just straight up out of change. Coins that you would normally find out of change have been beat up. Even if it's a brand new nickel, 2021 or 2020 or whatever the case may be, has already been subjected to some sort of circulation wear. Okay, whether it's in a BU bag and all the coins are clashing up against each other, causing little nicks and scratches and bag marks is what they call it, will effectively make the search a lot more challenging. So the only way to really find a 65 circulation strike nickel is by going through BU rolls. And I know that seems very tough, but there are BU rolls of this date out there. You're going to have to pay like maybe $10 to $15 per roll to go through it, but that's 40 coins, 40 shots to find a 1965 Jefferson Nickel. And it's the only way. Also keep in mind, this is the first year of the nickel, whereas it's the first year of this type of coinage outside of the silver standard. So a lot of these coins were kind of frowned down upon back in 1965. Back in 1966, a lot of the coins were spent. Very few were actually held on to in BU rolls or in high mid-state fashion. So that makes it a very tough coin. Okay, and you gotta look at also the period of time in which these were produced. In the 1950s, particularly from 1952 all the way up to about 1970, quality was of huge concern. They wanted to squeeze a little bit of extra life out of their set of dies. So, with that being said, the first set of coins that were produced from a freshly engraved set of dies would have full steps. But keep in mind, it doesn't take more than a few hundred strikes to completely weaken some of the most detail-oriented devices on a coin. The steps is one of them. You know, these pillars here on the front of Monticello is another thing that weakens over time. But it is strictly not that easy of a coin to find, okay, contrary to popular belief, because even though there is over 136 million of this particular date made, probably 99.8% of the entire run has some sort of strike issues, weakness of the strike, dies that were deteriorating, you name it. So, yeah, pretty tough. But if you're able to identify a coin, you find it, you send it off to PCGS, because obviously your PCGS coins will be worth the most amount of money as full steps. And if you're able to obtain that Mint State 66 high grade numerically, then you will have a coin that's worth upwards of $40,000, as we have determined on the price guide and based off of previous sales, that the coin can sell for more than $40,000, but it could also sell for less. Not a whole lot less. I mean, you know, I know you were promised $40,000 because that's what it said so on the price guide, But would you turn down 28,000 or 34 or 45? I mean, you know, the number can be anywhere because it's a rarity. There are two that exist, probably in a registry set somewhere, and none have made it out onto the secondary market. So the first one, whenever that will be, that makes it out into the auction scene, will sell for an ungodly amount of money. Now, we are in 2021. People are scraping and they're trying to get by with a little bit of money. There's a lot of people that are having a hard time with work and everything like that because of the obvious reasons. I mean, you know, 2020 was a dumpster fire, but I guarantee you there was a lot of people that could use this kind of money. Now it's going to be a lot of hard work. Nobody's ever said it was going to be easy. Because that's what $40,000 is. That is money you work towards. This is not, you know, one of those things like, oh, eureka, I found one coin straight up out of circulation. I'm going to send it to PCGS, and I know it's going to grade out 66 full steps. It doesn't work out that way. Usually with the conditioned rarities, it takes a lot more hunting, a lot more data finding. It takes some pretty late nights going through all these coins under a 20 times power magnifier, and your eyes are going to be tired and bloodshot. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But yes, it can happen. BU rolls, that's where you're going to need to search through in order to find some of these sealed BU rolls that have never been opened in over 50 years is going to be the key to finding a $40,000 65 Jefferson Nickel. But anyways, that was probably the most unnecessarily long explanation, A to Z, on how to approach this thing. And you can say the same for just about any other rare Jefferson Nickel. The 65 is not the only one, but it's the one I chose. Because ironically, it's the first date outside of the silver standard, which makes it a lot more compelling of a story to talk about. I want to thank you guys for watching. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts about this. Hopefully I was able to get all the information to you. And make sure that you have the necessary tools to jump into this pool. Do not jump into the pool without looking. You need the tools. You need the references. Bookmark everything I just showed you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Bookmark this video if you so inclined. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. It was surely a pleasure. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Happy hunting, and I hope to hear some really great success stories. You guys take care, Coinaholics. We're discovering together. See you on the next video.